Hi there, I'm Lelia Lewis, and welcome to another edition of New Day, New Beginnings. Whew. Well, this was certainly a new day and a new beginning for me because I have had quite an ordeal right up to the very last moment, which was just now. I'm having a bit of an issue because I couldn't do too much writing this week. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Couldn't do too much writing this week because I had a bad hand, a bad wrist, and I'm going to have to try to wing it today, as they say. I didn't really get to write out a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to do the best I can. So forgive me if I'm a little sluggish on things and I don't have too much in the way of notes because I could barely write. So I'm going to try to just go by what I have as far as readings, and then we're just going to kind of have our own little conversation. I'll put it that way. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about who we really are. And that's why my title for today is The Name Game. And a lot of people play the name game. And then, what's really in a name? Because half the time, you don't know what their real name is. And actually, there's not too much in a name because that's why so many people like nicknames and things like that. It could make them sound or make them feel like something or somebody more than what they are. Like if a guy is just because he's big doesn't mean he's strong or anything, but they might call him Big Boy. Remember in that movie, I forgot the name of it, but the teenagers, they were kind of like ruffians, and one was called Doughboy. I forgot the name of that movie, but and then got names like Smiley, and the girls have nicknames for girls. Hey, pretty, guys will call them that, and hey, cutie, and all kinds of names. But doesn't mean anything because you don't know them as a person, and you still don't know their real name. But today, we're going to be talking about a person using someone else's name and disguising themselves as that person and pretending to be somebody or not for their own gain, of course. So that's why I thought I picked the title, The Name Game. Remember, they used to have a song back in the day called The Name Game. I forgot how it went, but that stuck in my mind. But today we're going to be reading from Genesis chapter 25. And because I picked that because the name game did play out in here. Because this is the story about Esau and his brother Jacob. And it starts in chapter 25. And let me see if I can get this correct. It started in chapter 25 because let's go to verse 23 of chapter 25 because this is when Rebecca was married to Isaac. And this is the Lord talking to Rebecca, who's about to have twins. So the Lord said unto her, Rebecca, two nations are in your womb. That means two nations. What's that mean? That means that one is going to be great in one nation and the other is going to be great in another nation. And one shall be stronger than the other, and one shall serve the other. The elder shall serve the younger. Now, that's backwards because back in them days, the eldest always got the blessing and the dowry, so to speak. But this is saying the reverse. It's saying the elder shall serve the younger. But she didn't know what it meant. But anyway, so let's go forward. Now, Esau, let's go to verse 24. So when her days of delivery were fulfilled, there were two in her womb. Okay, so verse 25 says, the first came out, but they called him Esau because he was hairy like a garment. So that meant he had hair on his arms and he was just a hairy person. So they named him Esau. So then after that, his brother came out, and it says in verse 26, his brother came out, and his brother's hand had a hold on Esau's heels of his foot. And his name was called Jacob. So as the boys grew older, Esau, he was he was a hunter, and he was a man of the field. But Jacob was, like they say in 27, he was a plain man. And he lived in the tents, and he wasn't out there hunting and all that stuff. So, but the funny part about it was Isaac, their father, he loved Esau because Esau followed in his footsteps. He was a hunter. He liked to eat the venison and all that kind of stuff. But Rebecca, the mother, she loved Jacob. Now, Jacob, he was like kind of the homely guy, and he stayed around he did stuff around the tents and all that. But at any rate, as they grew older, I'll say maybe teenage or something. But anyway, Jacob, he was at the tent cooking up this big pot of good food. And Esau, he was coming back from the field, and he was hungry. So in verse 30, it says, Esau, he said to Jacob, oh, feed me. I'm so hungry. I am about to faint. Can I have some of that pottage? And so then Jacob said, well, I'll let you have some of this if you sell me your birthright right now. Just sell me your birthright, and I'll let you have all you want to eat. And Jacob, not thinking, Esau not thinking, he just said, well, I'm at the point I'm about to die. And anyway, what profit would a birthright do me if I'm dead? So he said, okay. So Jacob said, well, now swear to me this day that you're giving me you're selling me, giving me your birthright, and I'm gonna let you eat all you want. And Jacob didn't think anymore, Esau didn't think anymore about it. He just said, oh, okay, I swear. And he sold his birthright right then on the spot because he was hungry. So then Jacob gave him all the bread he wanted and all the lentil and the pottage and so forth and so on. And he just was eating and drinking and having a good time. And he just got up and went on his way. And that was the end of the story. As far as like it said, Esau despised his birthright. He didn't think no more. He just blew it off like, okay, well, and went on about his business. He never thought about it anymore. Never thought about it anymore. So that's how it all began. And Jacob got the birthright that really belonged to Esau, because Esau technically was the older of the two. But anyway, let's fast forward this. Let's go to chapter 27, because now in chapter 27, we're going to go to verse 10, I think I said. Let me see, verse 10. Okay, Jacob's stolen blessing. Yeah. All right. Okay. It came to pass that when Isaac, the father, he was getting very old, his eyes were failing. He couldn't hardly see, he couldn't see for real, for real. He just all he could do was tell by what they wore, or he knew of Jacob because he would go into the field and his robe would be smelling of the field when he came in. So it says here in chapter 27, and it came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim, he could not see. He called Esau, his eldest son, and said unto him, my son, behold, he said, Esau, he said, here I am. And uh, Isaac was calling him to say that now that I'm old, I don't know when I'm going to die. So I want you to go out. In verse 3, it says, and take your weapons and go find me some venison, because I want you to make my savory favorite food that I love and bring it to me that I can eat. Then my soul may bless you before I die. Now, that was his eldest son. That was Esau. So while he was telling Esau to go, venison is, he wanted him to get a baby goat, the kid, they call them kids, kill two kids and come back and make the venison that I like so well. But he was telling that to his eldest son Esau. But while he was telling him that, Rebecca, their mother, she was listening in at the tent. Now it says in verse 5, but Rebekah heard what Isaac had told his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to get the venison, to kill the goats and come back and cook it and all that, Rebekah ran to Jacob, her other son, the one that she favored, and she told him what she heard about Isaac telling Esau to go get the venison and bring it to him. So now she's telling uh, her son Jacob, she's saying, obey what I tell you to do. You go to the flock and bring me two kids of the goats, and I'll make the savory meat for your father. And then I'll give it to you, meaning Jacob. I'll give it to you to take to your father. Then he'll give you the blessing because he think you're Esau, because he can't see. He's blind. So Jacob, now he's thinking about what his mother's telling him. He's thinking about all this, but then he's thinking, yeah, but what about Esau? He's all hairy and everything. He would never believe I'm Esau if he felt, because he always reaches out for his hand. And he says, he feels that I'm smooth. He won't believe I'm Esau. So his mother says, look, don't worry about it. You just go do what I tell you to do. She says, and I'll take care of everything else. So let's jump down to verse 15. So here's where Rebecca, the mother, now she goes into action. And Rebecca, she says, let's see, Rebecca took, she goes in the closet and takes out a robe that belongs to Esau, the older brother. And she brings that out and she puts it on Jacob, the youngest son. And then she takes the skin that he skinned from the goat, and she takes the furry part and puts it on his wrist and in the back of his hand, so that when his father reaches out for his arm, he'll feel the hair. So she's doing all this, and she puts the skin upon his hands and also upon the smooth of his neck, because a lot of times his father would reach up and, give him a hug or something like that. So he had to have hair wherever he knew his father would be reaching to feel. So at any rate, she had him all dressed up and gave him the meat and the bread which she had prepared, and she gave it to Jacob to take in to his father. And he came into his father, and then he said, "My father, here am I." And Isaac said, "Who art thou, my son?" And Jacob went in. This is where Jacob goes into his disguise, being somebody he's not, to accomplish what he wanted. And Jacob said unto his father, "I am Esau, thy firstborn. And I have done according to you have bid, would have you have bid me to do." He says, arise and pray, sit down and eat my venison, so that thy soul may give me your blessing. And Isaac said unto his son, uh, well, how is it that you found it so quickly, my son? And when he said that, because he's thinking, well, if you had to go out and go find the goats and kill them and skin them and do all that, how could you do that so fast? And of course, Jacob, still lying in his disguise, he says, oh, well, that's because the Lord thy God brought it to me. In other words, oh, I didn't even hardly have to go hunting. I just went out there and it was just like right there. So he's saying God just put it in his possession. I would know that you were Esau or not. He said, well, the voice is Jacob's voice.